Everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Sports Exchange. My name is Scott Morgan off Motor City Mad Mouth. What a show we have lined up tonight. Before I get to the crew, our show, I'll talk about the crew. Rick Curdy, Mr. Opinion, welcome back to the big show.
Thanks, Scott.
JB Ellis, the program is on this program. Welcome back.
How's it going?
Have your regular Wednesday night spot. And of course, Jacob Krister, my partner from Pundits Pun It. We just
Hey,
All we did was flip the switch and went from one show to another. But Jacob, before we go any further, why don't you give everybody an idea what we did talk about on Pundits Pundit? What a great show we had here. I really
Oh
like
yeah, we talked about one of the biggest things we talked about is I had remembered when I had seen where Carl Anthony Towns was talking about getting his teammate to get off of the eating fried chicken and start getting his health, and then you got to bring up the whole surface. They kept looking at the surface of trying to be in shape, and people forget that he lost one mom and six other people to COVID, and he's trying to get their health up, not just the thing, but he's trying to get their health up, his surface. And we were talking about that tonight, and what his thing is trying to get his teammates to working on there. And then we also talked about the G versus the NCAA about the football player who passed away due to tons of different head injuries. And then there's also the missing sports journals, inside of that. It's part of the lawsuit. We talked about that also. So there's lots of different things we talked about.
Yeah, good job by Denzel Snipes and Jennifer Matthews Lewis. They were great. And of course, we had our opportunity to talk about these various subjects as well. All right, on to the business at hand tonight. Just to give everybody an overview. We're going to talk about football in New York City, talk about Kyle Shanahan. We'll do a little bit of NBA talk too, but good NBA talk for a change. And we'll talk about Aaron Rodgers, World Series predictions. Everybody gets their normal parting shots. With that said, okay, let's go to the Big Apple and Jets and the Giants. Let's talk about the record of the last two seasons. The Jets in 2021 were 4-13, and here in 2022 they are 5-2. The Giants, meanwhile, 4 up, 13 down, and now they're 6-1. So their combined record in 2021 is 8-26, and their combined record thus far is 11-3. So life is good in the Big Apple, isn't it? We're going to go to JB Ellis, who is from that part of the country.
listen, the Giants are playing inspired football. Their defense is unbelievable when it comes to the fourth quarter. Goal line stands inches away from the Jacksonville Jaguars taking the game. Passes batted down against Green Bay. Lamar, who? I mean, that's just the last 3 weeks. This has been an amazing ride so far. We're already got more wins than I expected this year. Great coach so far. And then, the other locker room next door, Robert Saleh, making the Jets, relevant again. They went out there to Denver. Great defense Denver has. They took it to them. Yeah, they lost their running back, Brees Hall, with a knee injury. That's a big, big loss, but they went ahead and traded for James Robinson, which was a good move. The Jets are relevant. They both have really good coaches. Both are ahead of where they should be at this point. If they stay with where they're going and they keep doing and following the program, they're going to be fun to watch.
Well, I'll also say this too. I like the upside for Zach Wilson, and I think the Giants do need to re-sign Daniel Jones. I really do. And now that the reason why I say that is Brian Daboll has done a good job getting the best out of them. Whether they do it or not is another story. But this kid has been a victim of bad coaching, and now you finally bring in a bona fide coach who helped turn Josh Allen around. And the results right now look pretty good. And you're right, JB. I think the Giants are way ahead of what anybody expected. It just shows you Brian Daboll is just a heck of a coach. All right, Jacob.
Well, that's the thing. Dable, I didn't expect Dable to get this so fast, but I love the guy. He can flat out coach, knows his offense. See, I mean, and just the fact that he could get Daniel Jones, that he could get him going, that shows everything. And he's a real guru that Matt Nagy pretended to be. Throughout the whole time in Chicago, they called him the guru. But Brian Dable didn't call himself that, but he is legitimately. And old JB here heard me talk about Saleh. I like the guy. I was saying he's gonna have something. Saleh's a good coach, and the thing is, the biggest thing about it is the fact they can win no matter who they have in truth, because it's not hung around the quarterback. That whole team is not hung around the quarterback. It's not hung around. It does not expect Zach Wilson to have 5,700 yards. Does not expect him to do it all. They've got a full. See, one thing that these teams are having they did not have in the past whatsoever is they are playing 4 quarters of football. Now,
Right.
bring this up, JB. I'll say this with Giants. They reminded me too much of the 2001 Bears, which is a first-round loss. It was tremendous defense, fourth quarter, the goal line stands, everything like that, and just enough offense. That's what it reminds me of right now, but that's still a lot better than it was. And that's the biggest thing about them is the fact that they're all playing 4 solid quarters like the Bears did against New England. That I'm shocked on that, and I love it. It's like that is the whole thing. What I talk about is when I'm going after fans, we need everybody. This is not about your fantasy football team. This is about 4 solid quarters of football with that team, defense, special teams, offense. 4 solid quarters getting it done week after week. Even if your quarterback hits 150 to 220 yards, that's what it's about. So someone's got to back it up. The run game's got to back it up. Everybody's got to do their job, and that is what a real thing is. Who cares about your fantasy team?
Well, I'll say this: Robert Saleh. I was hoping he'd land with the Detroit Lions. Unfortunately, again, it didn't come to fruition. Dan Campbell's a decent coach, but I've always thought Robert Saleh was a lot better than Campbell. Everybody knows what he did with the 49ers. He could have been a head coach.
Well, Saleh is more experienced.
He is a lot more experienced. Yeah, he is. But I thought, in my opinion, I was hoping the Lions would get him. He could have gotten a head coaching job a year ago prior, but the 49ers went too deep into the playoffs, and NFL teams tend to get a little bit, antsy toward their guy. Now, I will tell you this, JB, James Robinson, I saw him play with the Jaguars. To be able to get him for draft choices, low-round picks during the midseason, that was a coup. It really was for the Jets. All right, Rick, give me your take on this.
Well, Danville's a great coach. That just shows you what a horrible, incompetent coach that Joe Judge was. He should be found guilty of impersonating a head coach because he was a horrible coach. Again, the Belichick Kool-Aid. And Danville goes there. I didn't think the Giants would be this good. I thought, oh, man, they're terrible. Give him a couple years. Maybe he'll turn it around. And there's a surprise team of the NFL with no doubt. And then you got the other New York team, the Jets, who, have just been plagued, cursed, Dan Marino, whatever. And they're looking great right now. Salah's doing great. 2 surprise teams right there that I didn't see coming. The Jets have just been bad for a long time, and I like Saleh. He's not predicting they're going to win the Super Bowl like Rex Ryan every year. And, I guarantee we're going to win this. He just goes out there and coaches and does the best he can do. And he's just Zach Wilson. Like I said, no pressure on him. Just, be a game manager, do what you do. And with Danville, to me, he's the NFL Coach of the Year. What he's doing with the same team he had last year that went 4-13 with Daniel Jones, who struggled and who's been injured. He's looking great. So 2 surprising teams in the Big Apple.
Yeah, do you notice something? I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry about that, Scott.
That's okay. The only thing I'll say is the Maras was that one of the Mara owners said that they just don't want to screw up Daniel Jones, and he felt bad for the quarterback. Well, guess what? Brian Dable isn't screwing him up. And the Mara family, they're good, loyal people. They really are. What they've done, unfortunately, they've had a string of bad luck with coaches and circumstances. But now I'm glad to see the Giants getting back on track. But the reality of the situation is I'm glad that you have a coach that will not screw up this quarterback, and maybe he's salvageable.
And the thing about this with there's one thing that is proven with Belichick. Belichick's one of the all-time great coaches. I'm just going to say this, but this is the truth with him. It is completely obvious that Bill Belichick is Vince McMahon. In the fact that I was telling this a couple of weeks ago that Vince McMahon became a billionaire with like 870 employees at WWE. It means that they have a limit. They have maybe have a lot of employees. Bill Belichick has a lot of coaches, but it's completely obvious he does it all. Belichick, it is just like Vince McMahon did it all. He has all those people, and he's doing it all because there is because every time someone would leave Vince McMahon and go to a different organization, it stunk. They were just doing what they were doing. They didn't have their own ideas, and everybody leaves Bill Belichick stinks. Well, Joe Judge, Matt Patricia, they stink. They're not. I don't think they had a mind of their own with Bill Belichick, and then they had to use their mind when they were coaches. And and then you get Joe Judge, who does what was that 3rd and 9, and he did a sneak, JB.
Yep, from the 4, 2nd and 3rd down twice.
Yeah, and he did a sneak. He did a sneak at the 4-yard line.
He was never a head coach. Was he like a linebackers coach or something?
No, he was special teams.
Yeah.
But that's the thing I'm trying to bring up is when you never are allowed to use a mind of your own. Bill Belichick is not a mentor. He is one of the greatest coaches ever, but he's a terrible mentor because all these other coaches never were able to use their mind, and now they're trying to copy him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The jury's still out on Josh McDaniel.
Well, that's a good point, Jacob. It really is. Okay. With that said, let's go on to the next topic. Okay. That being the fact that under Kyle Shanahan, when trailing by 3+ points, entering the fourth quarter, the San Francisco 49ers are 1 win and 30 losses. How is this possible, Rick Curdy?
I don't know. I mean, Kyle Shanahan, he's always one of these coaches. You always hear he might be on the hot seat, and then they go on a good run, and then he comes back. They're Jekyll and Hyde. I mean, it's just one of those things that's just hard to explain. It'll be interesting what they do with McCaffrey, and it'll be interesting what happens with Trey Lance. I'm just not a fan of Trey Lance. I just don't think he's all that. I think they whiffed on that one, and I think they're kind of breathing a sigh of relief that he got hurt and Garoppolo's there. But there are just some things you can't explain. It's Shanahan sort of had like a Jekyll and Hyde career. 1 minute he's up, 1 minute he's down, 1 minute they look bad, and then they barely sneak into the playoffs, and then they go on a good run. So he's one of those guys that you always hear he may be on the hot seat, and then they go on a good run, and then he's like, no, he'll be fine. So it's a really interesting stat.
Well, 1 win and 30 losses when trailing by 3+ points entering the fourth quarter.
Yeah, most coaches would be gone already.
Yeah, I don't know. When I saw that stat, I had to bring it to the forefront. And since I'm not doing football tomorrow, I figure you guys certainly deserve a crack at it. All right, Jacob, go ahead and figure this one out.
Well, see, the biggest issue biggest problem with that is the fact that he's a front runner. That can't be a problem because he has a lot of leads. He has a lot of leads also going into the fourth quarter. It's not just the thing. It means throughout his time, he's either well ahead or he's behind. They're not a fourth quarter. You got to remember that takes away the fourth quarter comebacks for every quarterback they have because they've had 1 win in the fourth quarter since he's been there. Right. So there's no fourth quarter comeback. One of the problems, though, is that's going to kill you from ever having a Super Bowl because every team, we can go all the way. I can just say Indianapolis, Chicago. They're down 14-6 in the first quarter. If you're in a Kyle Shanahan team, you're done. You know what I'm saying? Right. You're done if that's the case. But they had to come back. Every team's behind. Every team is behind. And then you have to have yourself a shot. Every team makes these comebacks. The Bears with Nagy, and Nagy's a terrible coach. They even had comebacks. Even Trubisky had 8 comebacks in his career in Chicago. And that's even him. He would have had 12 if they had a field goal kicker. So that's telling you, even they did. So if you're that way, you'll never win a Super Bowl even if you get there. Even if you're that good and you got to the NFC title game, you won't win the Super Bowl because everybody comes from behind. They have to come from behind. And if you can't come from behind at all, it's over. You got to remember, when they did make that Super Bowl, they had the lead all the way to the fourth. Then they blew it. They blew it with 11. They lost by 11. And it's just like they had that game, and then there was a team that could come from behind. And it's like, if that would have been the San Francisco, it would have still been Kansas City winning it. So the thing was, I don't know if I'm going to blame Shanahan or the offense that they have at that point, because Shanahan wins a lot of ball games. It's just he's just not going to get to the mountaintop being like that. You have to come from behind wins every once in a while.
Good point. All right, JB, where do you want to go with this one?
So, I mean, that's the mark of a good coach is how you make adjustments. You know, if you're one in what was it,
30.
8 million?
1 in 30.
One might as well be 1 in 8 million. 31 times you're down more than 3 points and you can only come up with one win.
Yeah.
I mean, that doesn't say
Aaron
much for
Judge
you.
has been coaching him.
You know, I mean, that's not a. I mean, it's not. I mean, it's not even saying it's a bad percentage. That's just horrible. You might as
Right.
well, you know, leave the stadium, go home, turn on a different game. You know, that's not a good look. You got to figure out what makes you better. You know,
Yeah.
You got to learn how to coach. That's what makes a good coach a good coach. You look for halftime adjustments or adjustments in game that show that you are worth having your job. 1 in 30, 1 in 31, 1 in 30. Have a good life. Replace them. I don't care. Get to the championship game. You go down by a touchdown going into the fourth quarter, the game's over. What's the point?
Yeah, well, that's why I brought it up because when I saw that, it just struck me all the way it did. I'll go ahead and mention a thing to reinforce what Rick says. I think the Trey Lance pick was a major, major mistake. They were looking for a dual threat quarterback who didn't have enough reps. North Dakota State has recently produced Carson Wentz, and now you've had Trey Lance. I don't like my odds there. I'm not saying that particular division isn't any good. I think the FCS is not the point. But the only thing I will be curious to find out is how Christian McCaffrey does fit in. And I don't know whether he'll change that number at all. But because part of his issues has been staying healthy, he has to fit into that offense. And then second, you have to stay healthy.
He's shot, man. I mean, they used him and abused him so much. He's a little guy. He's been hurt.
Well, the
And I
Panthers
just,
use running backs hard, Rick. I know
yeah.
they've had a history of it. And McCaffrey, we'll just see if he can get his legs back in San Francisco. So, all right, well, I rarely ever talk about the NBA, but I will this time. But I really like this topic. I really, really do. No, it's not drama. This is just called greatness. Okay. Take note, Jacob. Maybe you might consider putting this one on Pundits Planet. Maybe you won't. I don't know. But we'll throw it out there and take it for whatever it's worth. Here are some NBA players with more than 11,000 assists. John Stockton, 15,806. Jason Kidd, 12,091. Chris Paul entered that at 11,009. Who do you like the best and most? All right, Rick.
Oh, I love Stockton. I mean, he's an assist machine. Him and Malone, two of the best. Probably best combo to ever win a championship. Mr. Consistent. I love Stockton. He was just an assist machine. Just went in there and just passed the ball, and they scored points. So to me, it's Stockton.
Jacob.
Stockton, and it's like, and plus the fact he all-time leader in steals by 50 miles too. But the one problem that people have now is the fact that we're not going to see too many more because we almost need to change it from the point guard and shooting guard to guard and just have two guards because there isn't a true, maybe Trae Young, maybe Ben Simmons because he gets like 8 assists even if he fouls out. Maybe them. But they're playing point guard and Ben Simmons plays point guard because he can't shoot. But maybe. But other than that, you're getting a Steph Curry's jacking up from 45 feet. Yeah. And he'll swish it, but that's not a point guard. A point guard scours the floor. A point guard is running the offense. A point guard is getting every player around, setting up the play. It's not to, and guess what? That's not getting against Steph. He's won 4 rings like that. Good for him. But let's just quit calling it point guard. Just say you're the greatest whatever guard of all time. Let's have 2 different, divided by 2 because divided into 2 sections because he is not, Steph Curry is not better than Magic Johnson as a point guard. Point guard. No, he's not. He doesn't have that. No, he's not better than Stockton. These are not point guards. These are guards. They are just, it is the new era. We got to quit saying, are they better than Magic Johnson? No, he does not do the same things Magic did. Does not do the things that Stockton did. Does not do the same things. These are the things that people have to understand. It's a different world, so I'm not saying change it. I'm saying quit calling them point guards.
Okay, JB.
Listen, there's no one compares to Stockton. I read something the other day. I forget who it was that that was saying it, but they were saying that they were a big trash talker, and they would talk trash to everybody. And the only person it never bothered was John Stockton. He just went out, did what he had to do, played ball, knew how to find his guys. I mean, the pick and roll with him and Malone was, the most boring play ever. It wasn't Showtime. It was complete antithesis of that. But you know what? It worked over and over and over again. And he was probably one of the best point guards ever to play the game. And guys today, like Jacob said, there are some great athletes. Trae Young, I was just watching the Atlanta game. The guy could play. He could score passes, but he's not Stockton. He's not a true point guard. We don't have that. The only guy that I would say close to that at this point, and not even really close, would be John Morant. The guy, he could pass unbelievable. Probably the best passer out there right now. But, still, if you put him and Stockton, just throw a passing clinic, I take Stockton every day.
Yeah, well, I had the good fortune of working with Isaiah Thomas. Isaiah was one heck of a point guard. There's a guy that can pass the ball. And of course, we all know about Magic Johnson as well. So before we go into the next topic, let me just point out to our audience that you can subscribe to the South Florida Tribune on our YouTube channel or visit www.southfloridatribune.com. And to advertise, call 954-304-4941. The audio portion of the show can be heard on iHeartRadio, Apple, Google, or wherever you get your podcasts. If you have difficulties subscribing from our website, just go to youtube.com, look for South Florida Tribune. You can hit the subscribe button that way. And of course, yeah, if you're following us on Twitter, at Tribune South is how you can get a hold of me. So, yeah, to me, I guess if I had to look at the group, John Stockton is there. But you know what? Jason Kidd's a heck of a point guard too, though. He really is. And I remember when he played for the University of California at Berkeley, he was a heck of a player there. And let's face it, of these three guys, he's the only one that has a championship ring in his pocket. Although John Stockton and Karl Malone competed in the West against a buzzsaw team like the Lakers. So you always have hurdles in your own conference that make it hard. And Chris Paul, I'd like to see him actually get a ring. He's done a lot for the game, but that's the only thing let's see on his resume. So, all right, let's go back to the National Football League. For the first time in 235 career starts, including postseason, Aaron Rodgers is a double-digit underdog versus the Buffalo Bills. All right, JB, take your first shot at this one.
So I was on the J&J Sports Express, which is our sports betting or NFL betting show earlier, and that was the question I asked before we got into analyzing the game. Can you remember? And now you just gave me the answer because I had asked if it had ever happened, and it never did. Because I was thinking back, and I'm like, I've never seen that. I'm glad to see it because he talks too much, and they're going to get killed anyway. It's going to be an ugly game, I asked last night on Sideline Sports, is it more enjoyable to see the demise of Tom Brady this year or the demise of Aaron Rodgers? I want everyone to think about that for a second because, these are two of the best quarterbacks of this generation, and they're both coming down to earth big time right now.
Yeah.
Tom Brady can't keep his foot out of his mouth and just not winning. Aaron Rodgers just loves to talk. He'll talk about anything to create controversy. He doesn't want to show up for the workouts, but yet he has the nerve to say that the coaches should replace guys that aren't working out well. Talk about the pot calling the kettle black. But let's go Buffalo. That's all I'm going to say.
Okay, well, Aaron Rodgers didn't help his cause out by waffling, and then Devontae Adams got sick and tired of it, decided to move to Vegas. So, he hasn't been able to. I think the biggest downfall with Aaron Rodgers is he should have gone to OTAs and every potential team thing that there was to get acquainted with his newer teammates and should have been more involved in training camp. So I think he literally shot himself in the foot because of what he should have done, knowing he had a different group to work with. All right, Jacob.
Well, Aaron Rodgers shouldn't have come back anyway in the first place. He didn't want to come back. They keep asking him back. They're getting him the money. He's ready to get himself doing the things that he loves to do. He wants to be able to go on Rogan and talk like he says. He wants to be able to find his way on Fox News eventually. Probably help Trump with his campaign. because that's going to start happening. These kind of things will happen. It's just a matter of time with the way he talks. But it's like he's looking at these things here. But overall, the whole game, I mean, it's like, yeah, you can't count Aaron Rodgers out if it's a close game, no matter what the thing is, because there's going to be those times. There's going to be those times in this part of the season where he's going to have those close games, going to have a couple more comebacks.
Right.
That Buffalo's just a monster. I mean, Pittsburgh's got a stiff defense, and they just ate him alive. And that was 38-3. It might be 50 points on Packers. Packers don't have that great of a defense. So that might be, I could easily see like 55-10, just like the old Super Bowl with Denver and San Francisco.
Well, the amazing part about the Packers is during the NFL draft, they were drafting defensive players, and they were drafting them out of the University of Georgia, hoping to bolster that defense. And so far, it hasn't worked out very well for the.
Well, there's no Kirby Smart. There's no Kirby Smart. It's like they're good defensive players, but you got to get a system.
No,
it's like trying to get a wide receiver and put him on Chicago. It's like I love Chicago. I love Chicago from the other night. They played a full 10-10 game. But They played a full game. But guess what? They still had like 3 wide receivers that had any kind of catch. They don't have a wide receiver. It's like putting a Georgia guy with the Chicago. If you don't have a system, it doesn't work. So you got to get the system for today. It's not just unless you want to bring Kirby Smart in to remind them.
Yeah, I guess the thing that amazes me is 235 career starts, and now he's finally a double digit. That's a lot. That really is. But
yeah,
it just shows, like JB mentioned, the regression of the Packers. It really does. I don't know if I fully believe in the Vikings, but I'll tell you, I believe less in the Packers. And of course, Tom Brady came back one more year, wasn't leaving $25 million on the table. I get it, fulfilling his contract. And, we can say what we want to say after the fact, but don't sit here and tell me they don't miss Ndamukong Suh and Rob Gronkowski with Tampa, because they do miss them both, but that's beside the point. The point is I do believe that JB, that this is going to get ugly for the Packers against Buffalo. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. And
well, you know what I love about it, Scott? I mean, he talked how he wanted to have a home game at Lambeau Field in the playoffs, lost multiple. He, for all the MVPs and all the great, he was one of the best. He has one Super Bowl. You know who else has a Super Bowl? Joe Flacco, Joe Namath. That's just the Joes. We can go on with mediocre quarterbacks.
Trent Dilfer.
Yeah, you know what? I was waiting for you to mention Jacob Trent Dilfer. Thank you very much, Pat.
Rob Johnson.
There are so many. Listen, I have no respect for Aaron Rodgers. I'm sorry. He should, maybe invest in a razor, get a haircut, keep his mouth shut, and play football. Then maybe I'll have some respect for him.
Yeah, well,
I have the respect based off the fact that he's one of the all-time greats, but he's a nut. I've known he's a nut. He treats his family like garbage, and that's the big thing. But people ignored his antics until they didn't politically agree with him. He's always been an asshole. He's always been a jerk. Let's be honest about that. Let's quit this whole. Let's put this whole media. We're going to take your side until you don't agree with us anymore. They ignored how he treated his family. Oh, but he doesn't believe in the vaccine, so now he's a jerk? No. Of course he's a jerk. He's a jerk anyway. He's a jerk whether somebody agrees with him on one side or not. He's a jerk. People were shocked that he has these views. He's a jerk. That's what he is.
Well, the only thing I'll say is, personally, I like Brett Favre better than Aaron Rodgers. Take it for what it's worth. Anybody that had an Iron Man streak like Favre to
Cancer over AIDS.
Pardon me?
Cancer over AIDS. That's what it is. Cancer over AIDS. You get
wow.
You got a guy who
wow.
stole. You got a guy who stole from the welfare deal. Dirty person's a guy with as much of a jerk with his family and himself as he is. I like them both as quarterbacks. They're both jerks.
Yeah, all right. Well, I'm just trying to tell you that as a quarterback, Jacob, okay, quarterback. I just want to make sure I say it, quarterback, okay, that I like Favre's gunslinger mentality, and I liked his consecutive game streak. And you know what? That's all I'm going to say about it.
Yeah, yeah.
Rodgers, to me, can do all he wants. If he thinks he can get the Jeopardy gig down the road, let him try it. And you know that he has other interests as well. So I definitely feel like this is a bad look for the guy. And now, obviously, Matt LaFleur has a 3-game losing streak for the first time ever as Packers head coach. I know Rick Curdy's patiently waiting. Go ahead, give me your take on what I talked about, 235 career starts, Rick.
Oh, I hate Aaron Rodgers. I used to like him when he first came up. I thought, I hope he does really well. And he's just turned into such an a-hole over the last 3-4 years. You know, the money, the success. He's another diva like Brett Favre. It's all about me. And now, you know, it's they're having a bad year because I don't have the best players around me. Well, I mean, they gave you all that money. So they could have used that money to get better players, and Devontae Adams left. And so he looks old, you know, and then just like Brady, they look old. And I'm just tired of him always playing games like Brett Favre. I'm going to retire. I'm coming back. I'm retiring. You know, and Aaron Rodgers, maybe if you stop trying to act like Nicolas Cage or try to look like Nicolas Cage or whatever, and go and practice with your teammates that you don't even know who are brand new, maybe you do a lot better. He's just a selfish human being. He's greedy. Yeah, he treats his family like garbage because his brother was on The Bachelor and he never talked about him. And so, you know, I just hope him and Brady just disappear. They got all the money in the world. They're going to the Hall of Fame, you know, no doubt about it. You know, great quarterbacks, legends, great. Just go away. You look old and you're pathetic, and nobody has any respect for you anymore.
Well,
Yeah,
But the nerve of him to say, you know, if the guys aren't performing in practice, you know, the coach should make moves and change the roster up. The guy doesn't show up for OTAs for the voluntary workouts to work with the guys, so they could be good. The nerve of him.
Yeah, it's like Brady.
You know,
It's like Brady throwing tablets and yelling and screaming at his teammates, and yet he went to a wedding. He needs personal time off. These guys are just divas. They're just jerks.
well, the thing about personal time off is most of the star quarterback they don't bring up is the fact that most of the star quarterbacks get a Wednesday off. That's why the star quarterbacks for their rest for the week. But that's not just to Brady. But the biggest thing about Rodgers by himself, he has never had himself they just said this year he threw like it was to one of his tight ends. He had how many games? The 230 games you brought up, the 230 starts. He threw a touchdown to a first-round draft pick for the first and only time when he threw it to the tight end. It was an old tight end. I forget which one. Like Mercedes Lewis, I believe. Or something like that. First time it was a first-rounder in his whole career. He's never had those players. He has done it anyway. He's won anyway. He's done all that stuff anyway. Here's the thing. He's fading away, and he doesn't want to admit it.
Yeah, you're right about that.
And he's a choker. I mean, look what he does. He has such a big mouth for a guy that chokes every year in the playoffs. I mean, he had like last year. I mean, they choked at home. He's a great regular season quarterback, but he's a choker, and he's never going to win a Super Bowl. I hope he never wins a Super Bowl, and I hope he just disappears. Sorry, Candy, but it's the truth.
Wow, she's doing another show, so she watching it.
Well, if she's doing a show, as you're doing a show?
Yeah, actually, she is out in our other room.
I love it.
Awesome.
That's amazing. I love it.
Oh, yeah. This relationship between Sideline Sports, South Florida Tribune, JB, you and I had a dream. No, Martin Luther King did too, but we're not talking about Martin Luther. We're talking about Scott and JB. But no, I mean, you know, Candy's out there with the girls. I'm out with the guys. What a beautiful thing. You're talking sports. I mean,
I love Sideline is so awesome, though. Look what you're talking about. She's in another room doing a show. We're doing a show. It's like we're literally almost becoming 24 hours a day.
I love it. Don't worry. JB
we
and
will
I.
Before you know.
Yeah.
JB and I got one more up our bag of tricks, don't we, JB, about what we're going to do.
We do.
We do. But yeah, you know what? You guys made some incredible points. Number one, Brady is going to go away. His next move will be in the television booth.
I don't think he's going to retire this year, though.
I don't know. I'm getting a feeling he probably might. I don't know
His
why.
ego, and I just
It
see him like
depends on
saying,
how
I can't
badly.
leave like this.
Well, man, there's a valid point, but there's two ways to look at it. The way you're looking at it, or he may finally say enough is enough and finally land in the TV booth. Now, we don't know if it'll save his marriage, and I'm not giving marriage counseling to him, but regardless, I don't know. That could go either way now. It really could. It depends on how the season goes. I mean, losing 21-3 to the Carolina Panthers certainly
That's
was a
right.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
Oh,
bring.
that was that was awful. That was
We
just
loved it.
awful.
We're
yeah, I bet
celebrating.
you
We're so
did.
happy.
I
Listen,
am
all I
going to
wanted was a
bring.
Fournette touchdown.
I'm
And,
going to
and, and
bring up.
what's worse is he lost to the Carolina Panthers with PJ Walker as quarterback. Now, I
Their
got to
Well, he
third
lost to
admit,
quarterback.
Trubisky the week before. He lost to Trubisky the week before. Trubisky literally outplayed him.
yeah, but you know what? I was on another program, okay, and one of these guys that I was on with, what a smart aleck at times, this guy. And I said, you know what? Here's the thing. And he didn't listen to my entire thought, okay? He decided to react too quickly. I said, if Steve Wilkes, okay, takes the Panthers to the playoffs, I said, yeah, again, we point out hypotheticals, right, guys? Okay.
That's our job.
Right, exactly. And then the Panthers should hire the guy as a full-time coach if he can get around
Without a
that.
doubt.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. I mean, look at the Phillies. They're in the World Series. They fired
Well,
Girardi.
thanks
Yeah.
for backing my point up. But this guy here,
Yeah.
oh, he's a lousy coach. He did this in
Yeah.
Arizona. And, of course, Josh Rosen was bad. And you know
One
what
year.
I said, first of all, Josh Rosen, okay, they drafted him in the first round, and he was with a coach with 3-13, and they were both exiled after a year. So I don't think that anybody could criticize Josh Rosen for his time as Arizona because they gave up on the guy too quickly, and then they ran the coach out of town. And again, I'm not saying Josh Rosen's great, but there's no way you can indict Steve Wilkes because of a dysfunctional Cardinals. And this guy was so out of. I mean, I laid into him. I really
Good.
did. I know.
He's
And
an idiot.
anytime, again, I didn't say he would if he takes him to the playoffs. Didn't mean he would. But, when you walk into a Hornets nest where you're trading Robbie Anderson, right, immediately, and then you move on from McCaffrey, and then you follow it up with a 21-3 win against a team that was considered to be a bona fide playoff team, then more power to the Panthers. But this other guy, to me, I mean, I love eating people like that up alive. I really do, because you know what? The reason why is because I hate to see dwelling with you guys. Have been around a long time, 40 some odd years. But when you've seen a lot of different situations and how they all change themselves out, then you just can't keep attacking certain things. You have to let things play out. All right, Jacob.
Hey, Scott, I will tell you this. You know what the Tom Brady and Giselle thing is reminding me of now? I'm going to use something, a reference you're going to understand. Matt Dillon and Kitty.
Okay.
From Gunsmoke. It is the 20 years of that show. And I mean, they love each other. All that stuff. She ends up eventually, one of their final years, she ends up just walking away. They have like one movie together, but it's like she ends up just walking away. She's tired of waiting to see if he's dead, waiting to see if he's hurt, waiting to see everything. That is what Giselle truly is right now. She has probably seen so much. He's probably, we see him healthy in front of the camera. He's probably just beaten up to death. And she's seen it all. She's probably tired of it. He's done everything. He just refuses to give up the competition. She's probably just worn out by it.
Well, here's the thing. If you're going to bring that up, okay, and I know we're talking about Rodgers. I don't mind drifting away from it. What Giselle does not want to see, and you being a Chicago guy, Jacob, should know better than anybody, Giselle does not want to see Tom Brady become a Jim McMahon.
Yeah.
That's all.
Absolutely.
Period.
Well,
Absolutely.
she wants to resume her career, and he said that this is my last year.
Great. I do that, but I'm not. But you know what? She doesn't want him to become a Jim McMahon.
Oh, I know. Well, he needs to give it up because he's going to end up like Jim McMahon, and his ego is just the problem. He just has a massive, massive ego. That's why I say he's going to come back, because he's saying to himself, there is no way I'm going to end my final season like this. His fear was if he couldn't compete no more, he would disappear. I just don't see him retiring. He's going to give it one more shot and to say I'm still the greatest of all. It doesn't matter if you have a horrible. He's still the greatest. He just doesn't seem to understand. Like Joe Namath. I mean, nobody cares he was with the Rams. Nobody cares that other players. I mean, Emmitt Smith ended up with the Cardinals, and he was a shell of himself. Nobody cares about that. He needs to understand that nobody's going to care. If you retire, you're still the greatest quarterback of all time.
Yeah, true. But you know what? Again, the one thing we're talking about, we still have a bit of a season left to go. We'll see about the physical toll this takes on him and the mental toll. And at what point or another do you finally decide it's not? We'll see. We'll have a lot of season. Right now, we can voice our opinions based on what we've seen thus far. And everybody on this panel makes great points about it. So, the one thing I refuse to ever do on my show is every opinion on this panel makes so much sense, and I'm thankful for every one of them. We don't have to agree on everything. It's just our ability to go out there and shed light and give you different opinions and draw your own conclusions. So, but as far as getting back to Aaron Rodgers, you know what? I think you're right, Rick. To me, this guy here and JF again, I'll go back to the fact that all you guys are right. He should have been involved with more off-season activities than he was, especially with a new group of receivers. And it's going to be a long day for the Green Bay Packers against Buffalo. All right, final topic before we go to parting shots. Okay, World Series predictions. We're only going to go predictions this time. Okay, Rick, give me your prediction and why.
Astros in 6. I just think they're destined. I think Dusty Baker's destined to win the World Series. He's done everything. I think he'll be the oldest manager to win a World Series, if I'm not mistaken. Great career. He's going to the Hall of Fame. This is just the cherry on the Sunday if he wins the World Series. And I'm rooting for him, even though I hate the Astros with a passion. I love Dusty Baker. I think the Phillies, what they have done is phenomenal, but I think it's Dusty's year.
Well, if Dusty does what he'll surpass Jack McKeon, who's currently the oldest guy. So, all right. So, Jacob, give me your prediction.
Let me say, I can say this: I'm rooting for Dusty. I'm writing a column. I'm writing a column for Inscriber magazine saying that I believe Dusty needs to have a statue at Wrigley Field, and I'll tell you why. And that's during that time, on the column. But the thing is, I am in a split thing. I am definitely for Dusty to win it. Definitely. Especially when, I'll tell you this, JB, when we talked about this in Confidential, we have said if you have less strikeouts, you have people on base, and things are working, then it's exciting baseball. Houston has 8 strikeouts all postseason. 8. That's telling you something. That is telling you what we were talking about.
It's telling you that there's trash can somewhere going bang, bang, bang.
Yeah. It's him. It's Dusty throwing away toothpicks. That's the only reason that's happening there. But no, I'm saying though, you see what I meant by the Cubs. When you have people on base and people making contact, it's more exciting ball, and that's just what that is. But the thing is, in another case, I want to see Mattress Mac lose that damn $75 million. He is so reckless with money. I am sick and tired of hearing his bets, and it's like you got to get stupid and quit doing this. It's like I see all this kind of money. All I want to do is invest that money. If I keep seeing the money, I don't want to gamble that money constantly. But overall, Astros in 6.
All right, you say Astros in 6. All right, JB.
So, Mattress Mac or whatever the heck he's called, he does that because he does for his furniture stores. It's insurance policy. That's why he does it. It equals out because he has promotions that he runs at his furniture stores. There's a big article about it if you search about it. It's a couple of years back.
Yeah.
So he's really not losing money. It's just like his insurance. If they win, that's what he would end up having in promos.
Okay.
But still stupid.
Yeah.
I can't root for the Astros. I'm disgusted at my Yankees that they didn't show up. I didn't expect them to win, but to get swept. And Aaron Boone, who thank God the game was played in the Bronx because he should have been left somewhere on the side of the road. So I'm gonna root for the Phillies, as I tweeted and Confidential tweeted. We're all rooting for the Phillies. Sorry, Dusty. If you were anywhere else, any of the other teams in baseball, I'd be with you. But the Astros have become more hated than the Red Sox to me. I'd rather see the Red Sox win 3 in a row before I see the Astros ever win again. I can't even stomach them.
So Phillies, how many games, JB?
Oh, it'll go 6.
Okay. All right. I'll stay with my pick. I'm going to go the Astros in 7. And I'll tell you why I'm going Astros in 7, because those bats are awfully good in Philadelphia. They're bashing bats. I mean, think about it. Schwarber, Castellanos, Hoskins. You know, who else am I missing? Schwarber. Of course, Bryce Harper is arguably one of the best players in baseball. And the list, JT Real Muto. Rob Thompson's done a good job, but I still have to go with the Astros in 7 anyways. And I think Dusty, I would still like to see him win it, but we'll see how it goes out. All right, we got parting shots. So with that said, Rick, Curdy, lead off.
Well, Don Mattingly, left. He's out there. And, no surprise, Tony La Russa was left because of medical reasons. And, they asked, and the White Sox are looking for a manager. And I was really surprised and actually kind of sickened to hear Ozzie Guillen's name mentioned. I keep hearing his name was a front runner, and people are like, yeah, he brought us a World Series. And I said, well, do the Chicago White Sox want to have like Fidel Castro Day there? I mean, do we remember what he did and his views? Do we remember when he abused reporters and called one of them a gay slur and all this stuff? You really want someone like that back in your organization that spews all this hatred and venom and controversy? And you, Jerry Reinsdorf, are you serious that you were thinking about bringing Ozzie Guillen back to the White Sox? Really? There's great managers there. You got Joe Madden, Don Mattingly. If there's a manager that deserves to be given an opportunity, it's Joey Cora. I think that guy would be a great manager. He played for the White Sox, likable guy. Why do you want to bring a guy that's so hateful? And do you think he's changed since the last time we managed? I highly doubt it. So, I mean, Jerry Reinsdorf, if you hire him, good luck to you. I will be rooting for you. This guy is poison. Don't bring him back, and he needs to go away.
Rick, it's Tony La Russa. We got rid of Tony La Russa. You don't want Ian, who's already broadcasting for him, brought him a championship. Great guy. The only major league player that ever gave me the finger when I was a fan way back in the day. Love him ever since then. I abused him the whole game. I don't believe in cursing or anything at players, but I was just going off on him. And he finally gave me the finger about the 7th inning during a pitching change. So he has a personality. Had his son on our show. Nice guy. Listen, they're a good family.
But when you say that you admire Fidel Castro, I mean, come on. You need to go. I mean, we don't need that around. I mean, seriously. I mean, that's what happened with him in the Marlins. And he said that in Miami, for Pete's sakes. Yeah. The man has no filter. He should not be a manager.
That got him in JB being down here. That got him in a heap of trouble. There's certain comments.
I can imagine.
Yeah. There's certain comments that you make, and there's certain ones, including you have a meeting with a guy on Monday, and I don't want to mention the name on the air, but he says that he has such an vindictive nature toward New York. He thinks they ought to throw the Statue of Liberty into the Hudson River. So, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, if you want to listen to the tape, I'll be more than happy to share it to you. So, I'm not trying to throw him under the bus, but I think the Statue of Liberty deserves to stay in the same place that it's at. It's very nice over there. Not throwing it into a river, especially for our friends up in the metropolitan New York. So, but as far as Ozzie Guillen making those poisonous comments out in Miami, there's certain things you do. That's just not one of them. So, I don't know. We'll see who does land the job with the White Sox. I've always thought that Don Mattingly or Joe Girardi should be the two guys, but I'm not exactly sure. And Joe Madden, I think, would be an ideal fit there too. But we'll see how.
Or get Joey Cora. I mean, this guy's been groomed to be a manager. I've heard his name for so many times. Get him. Yeah, somebody.
Well, that's okay. All right, JB, give me your parting shot.
So the Giants right now are in the toughest part of their schedule. You're thinking toughest part. They just played the Packers, Ravens. This week they had the Jaguars, which was a tough game, a winnable game. But that's what makes it tough in the NFL. These games you're supposed to win. This week it's Seattle. Got Houston and Detroit after that. These are all games, looking at the schedule, you say you should win. Now, the tough part of doing this as an NFL team is going out there and winning these games. It's not easy to beat an NFL team on any week, let alone a team you're supposed to beat. So when you look at teams and you say, everybody looks at the schedule, we're going to have 10 wins, 11 wins, easy to do on paper. But when you get to that point of the year, when you have 4 in a row games you should win, it's going to be interesting to see what this team does with the new coach, young core. Let's hope that they can follow suit and they win 3 out of 4 of them, and we're in great shape going into the division games towards the end of the year.
All right, Jacob.
I'm having a feeling that that in this time of brand new time of sports, we're probably going to need to divide the records up, by generations. And I'll explain. They just said that Tom Brady is about to hit 100,000 yards as between playoffs and regular season, which that would have 100,000 yards. We were thrilled at one time when Joe Montana hit 40. We were thrilled then, when the numbers that Dan Marino hit. He's going to hit 100,000 yards. And what the crazy part about it is, in this past happy, at the time, if Josh Allen stays busy, if he stays healthy and everything like that, he's going to easily go by it. So will Joe Burrow. He just hit 483 like it was practice last week. It's like we have 3-pointers. Larry Bird was number 3 of all time in 3-pointers, 697 threes. Now he's just going to keep going down the list where nobody's going to know who he is. He's going to go down the list, and it's like now they're in the 3,000s, 4,000s, 5,000s, and then this era is going to keep doing it. We might have to get to the point between baseball and home runs, between the 3-pointers, between touchdowns and yards, where we might need 2 generations because they are such different divided days now, and the way and the type of game that it is played. And we might have to see that because the records are just, I don't mind the record getting broken, but we might need to know who breaks Tom Brady's record, not who breaks Joe Montana's. Who breaks, we might need to know who really does break Barry Bonds' numbers and not Hank Aaron's, because it's a different day. It's a different day, different style, different type of game. And it is respect to all, but I'm just trying to say that as far as records.
Okay, well, I'll give you my parting shot. I did allude to the fact that I've always admired Brett Favre because of his consecutive game streak. I'll also say the fact that Cal Ripken's consecutive game streak will never be broken. AJ Green, the same way. But you know what? There's another consecutive game streak that just got reset in the National Hockey League. Guy by the name of Phil Kessel, 990 game Ironman streak, past Keith Yandel, who had 989. And what's really impressive about what Phil Kessel's done it is, to me, of all the major sports, he's doing it in the National Hockey League, one of the most physically demanding sports out there. And if he breaks 1,000 games, which only got 10 more to go, that to me is just unbelievable. So Phil Kessel is a new NHL Ironman, currently stands at 990. I think Keith Yandel could have gone on a little longer, but the coach took him out Philly. His play was regressing, but Phil Kessel's not showing any sign whatsoever of letting up. I do believe that he's played for Toronto, Pittsburgh, the Coyotes, and now he's currently with the Vegas Golden Knights. So Phil Kessel, you know what? To me, at a time where sports athletes like to take days off and they only play 75% of their streaks, you got to always admire a guy like Kessel. And as I alluded to, Cal Ripken Jr., and of course, we always admired Lou Gehrig prior to that. And then AC Green, and of course, Brett Favre for no other reason, his consecutive games. Those streaks to me are sacred, is what they are. And congratulations, Phil Kessel. I hope you break the 1,000 mark, and I hope you have a record that'll never be broken, because this is certainly one of the tougher records to get, considering the nature of the physical style of play in the National Hockey League. So hats off to you, Phil Kessel. With that said, okay, Rick Curdy, why don't you let everybody know how they get a hold of you?
You can find me at my website, www.charlottebats.com. You can go on there, sign a petition to bring Major League Baseball to Charlotte. I'm also on there at Charlotte MLB, Charlotte Bats Baseball. I'm on Instagram at Charlotte Bats, Twitter is Charlotte Bats Baseball, and I'm on LinkedIn under Rick Curdy. And if you have any comments or questions, you can email me at cltbatsbaseball@gmail.com.
Okay, Jacob Christner, I know you have a lot on your plate. Let everybody know what you have on your plate.
Sunday nights, the Basket Bros. But before that part, I'm at Jake the Pundit on Twitter and Jacob Christner at Facebook. So anyway, to go back again, Basket Bros on Sunday nights. Monday nights during the season, NBA Carousel, Megan Price. Tuesday nights during the season, Confidential with JB and about 60,000 others with Confidential. And we have all that kind of thing, and it's fun, and we're glad to be on prime time next year, thankfully, not 11 o'clock. Wednesday nights, Pundit, and then the Sports Exchange. And then Thursday nights I do I get away from Sideline. I do Yin and Yang with TJ Sanson, talking politics, talking psychology, talking films. We talk all kinds of different things on there, everything but sports. And then we just something a little kind of a change of pace. And then we're also doing a movie together called Awakening, where we're writing a short. So a lot of things going on right now.
All right, JB Ellis.
JB_ the program, Sideline Sports Tuesday at 8:30. Confidential in season, we'll let you know what time. JJ Sports Exchange, 7 o'clock on Wednesdays, right here every week around 9 on Wednesdays. And both sides of the coin at 11:05 on Wednesdays every other week. Plus many other places. But Sideline Sports 7 days a week. Great shows. Make sure you're tuning in.
Yeah, great talent too. I got 2 of them here, and I work with a lot more of them. So, as I said before, you guys are a class outfit. We're just really delighted to be able to partner up with you by not only using the talent, but cross-promoting on other shows as well. I know folks have given you a lot of our info. I'll just give you some basic stuff right now. Please subscribe to the South Florida Tribune YouTube channel. Just go to youtube.com and do it that way if you want to. My name and the Twitter information has been on the screen at Tribune South. www.southfloridatribune.com gives you all the broadcasts as well as the written content. And if you want to contact us directly, feel free to contact us at southfloridatribune@gmail.com. And a special shout out to Candy Ebb, who does a marvelous job putting the broadcasts up as well as the written content. And now she has a role with Sideline Sports with her group of Megan Price, Jennifer Matthews Lewis. Who am I forgetting there? I'm in trouble. Megan Price, help me out. Who's the other girl?
Carrie.
Jennifer, Carrie.
Yeah, there you go. These 4 young ladies are dynamite. So I'm glad that we're working, that they've worked themselves and they're having a good time over there. So, and by the way, on tomorrow's edition of Inside the Pigskin, Candy Ebling will be hosting the show, as I have to go to Detroit on some business. So, but meanwhile, once again, Rick, Jacob, JB, job well done as always. Am I supposed to expect anything else? No, but positive reinforcement is what life should be all about. And I'm just delighted to have some great teammates on this show. And I hope that everybody enjoyed this episode. And if you get a chance, just please share it to your friends and family so that they can hopefully enjoy it as well. We try to keep it lighthearted. We do the best we can to come up with topics that not only make you think a little bit, but also are insightful. So meanwhile, on behalf of Rick Curdy, Jacob Christner, JB Ellis, my name is Scott Morgan, Rock the Motor City Man. I'll thank you for joining us on this edition of the Sports Exchange, and we'll do it again next week for Pundit's Pundit and the Sports Exchange. Take care, everybody, and have yourself a dynamite weekend. Bye-bye.
Take care.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.